In today's show, the Blazers released their Summer League roster, and there is one obvious omission. Where's Scoot? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we are talking Blazers Summer League. The team officially announced their Summer League roster, which begins next weekend in Vegas. Summer League practices will start this coming week, and then next week in Vegas, the games will kick off, and the Blazers will play 4 and potentially more if they win enough. Probably got to go 4-0 to make the championship, but 4 games in Vegas, and the impossible thing to ignore is that when you look at the roster, Scoot Henderson's name's not on the list. Well, we'll talk about that in the first segment. I want to give my sort of first blush looking at this roster before we really get into it before the games start, kind of who I'm going to be watching and how I'm going to be watching those players and some names you need to know as the Blazers head for Vegas next week. And then finally, some news out of Australia. Matisse Thybulle is not going to Paris, did not make the final 12-man roster for the Aussies. What's going on there? We'll talk about that in a little Olympic roundup to close the show. Let's start here with the Blazers roster. They announced their Summer League roster, and there's the names you'd expect. Donovan Clingan, their only rookie that they drafted this year, he's there. Ryan Rupert back in action. Chris Murray back in action. Justin Minaya, their recent two-way re-signee, is going to be there, along with Jackie Sway, who they signed, who worked out for them during the pre-draft process, and then they signed to an Exhibit 10 contract. An Exhibit 10 contract is basically like guaranteed incentive money to send someone to your G League team. So I think Sway will likely end up being on the remix. But you look at the roster, and the number one thing you notice is that Scoot Henderson's name isn't on the list. And I think this is notable. I don't think in the grand scheme of NBA development, a week of practice and 4 games in Las Vegas are going to have any material impact on Scoot Henderson's development or outcome or any of those things, right? His budding chemistry with young big man Donovan Clingan. It is not going to be damaged or impacted in any way by his participation or lack thereof in Summer League, right? Like in the grand scheme, it's totally meaningless. But it's notable that you don't see his name on this roster because quite simply, Scoot wasn't good last year. He had some moments at the end of the season where he looked very promising, right? Where it was like, okay, I can see the outlines of a good NBA player. I can see the playmaking and some sort of better decision making and a little bit better scoring efficiency, although it never really ramped up for any consistent run. But for the most part, for the vast majority of the season, Scoot Henderson was a bad NBA player. Plenty of rookies are bad, right? Plenty of rookies are bad. But Scoot was bad in a way that was probably surprising to the franchise, certainly surprising to the fan base. And he struggled. He was someone who struggled. He rightfully lost his starting spot because he wasn't good enough to keep it, and they wanted to give him the keys to the boat. They started him night 1 of the season. They thought he was going to be ready, and he just clearly was not. Which, again, doesn't really mean much for years 2, 3, and 10, but that type of player, a rookie who wasn't very good and could just use more reps, more seasoning, and more probably just closeful, watchful minutes under the instruction of the Blazers coaching staff, that's the exact type of player you bring to Vegas. That's the exact type of player. The goal, and I will mention, I will highlight, the Blazers did this. You don't need to say they don't do this, or example. Here's an example. I'll offer you one. They did it with Shaedon Sharpe. Sharp played 80 games. He basically missed one game his rookie season. Don't let anyone tell you he was hurt his rookie year. He missed literally one game, and then they held him out of another game to tank. He would have played in 81 games his rookie year if he had been able to. But he wasn't very good. Like the beginning of Sharp's NBA tenure, he looked like someone who was making the leap from high school basketball to the NBA because he was one of the worst like regular big minute players and like regular rotation players in the NBA. Then he had a great run at the end of the season, a 10-game stretch to close the year, 11-game stretch to close the year if you want to include the game against Utah, Damian Lillard's final game in a Blazers uniform, where it's like, oh, this dude can hoop. And he, after year one, which was a rocky year one that showed some much more promise than Scoots, to be clear, they played him in Summer League. He played because it would be normal to play. And 2 summer leagues is about as much as anyone could ever need. I know that in Blazers past, this is 8-9 years ago, and they like kind of begged Alan Crabb to come to a 3rd summer league because they were like, please, you need it. Like we really want you to play. Different regime, different era, different time, all of those things. But like as recently as last season, a decorated and high minute rookie who had played went back for year 2 in Vegas, and they are not asking Scoot to play in Vegas. Whether that's Scoot's preference or the team's preference or some combination of, I imagine we will get some reporting this week about what that kind of looks like. But I would say, and again, I don't think this is meaningful. Like, I don't think this is good. Like, I don't think this is like organizational malpractice or like it's just notable. This is a notable omission from the roster. It's like a thing that you look at and say, no Scoot. Because like he could play, and what you would want, like the goal for Scoot in these games, would be to graduate out of summer league. You would like have him play game 1 and look good, have him play game 2 and look really good, and say, "You're good, dude. Like you can go home, or or you can stay for the week and cheer on your teammates or whatever. But like you're not going to play anymore. You've spent 2 days. You spent the first weekend in Vegas." And that's that, and you're good to go. Like we don't need to see any more from you. But that would give him practice reps because they will practice a little bit in Vegas, but they'll practice the week of in leading up to Vegas at the practice facility. They'll get real reps there, and then you get a couple games and a game in between. The Blazers play Saturday and Monday, so I imagine they'll have a Sunday practice in Vegas next week. So like just some time with the coaching staff to play games, get like full speed reps against players wearing a different jersey on, games that are reffed and all of those things with the clock and all of that, like real organized basketball. Summer league is like not super organized, but certainly more organized than pickup. Like get those reps in and then graduate out of it. That's what you'd want. I'd say like the ultimate goal for Scoot is to play about something like 55 to 60 minutes of summer league basketball and then be done with it. But instead he's going to end up with 0. I'll be very, very curious to learn how this decision came about, because if the decision is we just didn't think he needed it, that's really bizarre, and I quite frankly don't believe it. I assume maybe Scoot didn't want to go, like that has to be part of it, or it's just it's an odd decision. Again, not impactful, not meaningful. Don't extrapolate it out to like anything else. Just like note it for what it is. It's kind of weird that this is the way they're doing it. But there are some players that I think are useful to watch in summer league. Let's talk about watching Donovan Clingan and Ryan Rupert and Chris Murray and how to kind of watch summer league as an amateur, and then some other names to know on the rest of the Blazers roster. Join me in that second segment, and that's what we'll talk about, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about eBay Motors. There's 3 words you need to know: passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether that's superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, baby, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So go get a W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All all right. So no Scoot, and I would say notably this, as long as we're talking Blazers Summer League. Notably no Ibubaji. I know it's been reported a couple times and reiterated several times that Ibubaji is expected to get the Blazers' second two-way, or one of the Blazers' two remaining two-way contracts. Not on the Summer League team is a notable absence. They could still add him. They could do whatever they want. Like the Summer League is a different thing. It's not necessarily this like talent incubator, although I will say Duop Reith basically joined the Blazers Summer League team, played well enough to earn a contract, got a two-way deal, turned that two-way deal into a full-A contract. The Blazers used Summer League to some extent last year as a way to find a player that could help the roster. So I think that's notable. But Baji not being there is, I would put it, I like to say this on the show and I'll say it here. It's like, put a star next to it. But Baji not being in Summer League is worth starring. There's four players that are on the roster or on the portions of the Blazers roster that are going to be the focus for me when I watch Summer League. I'll be curious to see what Jackie Sway is like, a 6'8" forward who's playing professionally in China last year. H.J. Lee played at Davidson and is a bucket. Played it professionally spent a year in the G League and professionally in Australia. And I knew about him in college. I'll definitely keep an eye on him. Alex Reese played at the Remix. When I went to go see the Remix game, someone who had watched them a bunch told me, "You'll like this guy. He never misses." Immediately, Alex Reese canned to three, shot 40, almost 45% from three in the G League. He's kind of a stretchy big. He's worth keeping an eye on. For me, Terquavian Smith, who had a two-way contract with Philly and is now joining the Blazers G League team. He's like a 6'4" bucket, like he's 6'4", 160. He's listed at 160. He's like a skinny bucket from NC State. Those are like the non-roster guys I'll keep an eye on. But the players I'm going to watch are on the roster. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's like seeing guys can make the team and they can get, professional opportunities in those situations by playing well in Summer League, right? And so much of Summer League is like doing agents a favor. Hey, can you get my guy some playing time? Can you get my guy on a roster? Can you get him some minutes and all of these things? But like for the Blazers purposes and for the purposes of this podcast and as sort of like the armchair analysis out there, like analysts out there, you watch the roster guys. I'm really curious to see what Donovan Clingan looks like in his Summer League. It's not a great environment for a player with Donovan Clingan's skill set. Like he's not a dribble guy. It's mostly activity for folks who can dribble. It's a really good place if you're a score first guard. Terquavian Smith might have some games in Summer League. But you can watch the functionality of what they do. The Blazers are going to be coached again by Jonah Herskew, an assistant on Chauncey's staff. And like, for the most part, Chauncey's under Chauncey's tenure as a coach, like the Blazers have shown what they're gonna do. They've like, okay, in Summer League we're gonna play a bunch of zone, or we're gonna try this and that, and like you can kind of say like, okay, that's easily gonna translate. So like how they use Clingan on offense, how they use him on, like how impactful is he on defense, what kind of actions do they ask him to run on offense, where do they use him on defense, is it exclusively drop when he plays zone, how does he move his feet, like all those things. That's kind of the basic stuff. I just don't expect I don't think Clingan's going to have like a 20-10 game just because I don't know that he's going to get enough sort of like pick and roll stuff to make it happen, but he could get some garbage buckets and he has okay touch and he might surprise me on offense and maybe he'll get there. But again, like I'm not sure this is a great setting for bigs that don't shoot and don't do a lot off the bounce. And Clingan's impact is going to be on defense, and that's maybe will be felt in another setting, but he might be impactful on defense in Summer League. It's more organized than it has been in the past. I'm pretty curious to see what Ryan Rupert becomes, because if you remember back to last year in his first Summer League, he looked awful. He just so raw. Like he just clearly wasn't ready. He couldn't dribble. Like he just wasn't ready to play at that like level of competition. And that translated to the league where it took him like a long time to get, to earn trust in the Blazers system and get regular minutes and all of those things. Like it just took him a long time. I'd love to see Rupert and I think one of the two ways to think about like Summer League is like for Clingan, it's like how will he be used? How will this directly translate? And for a guy like Ryan Rupert and to the same extent Chris Murray, it's like you want to see them be asked to do way the heck more than they would in a normal. Like Rupert surprised in the end of last season because he shot pretty well. Like it's like he looked pretty good as a shooter, mostly standstill shooting, but a little bit of movement shooting and maybe a couple step backs here and there. But like he was better at, the only thing he was good at on offense was making threes, which was like, that's pretty cool. He wasn't supposed to be a shooter. Maybe he can grow into sort of like a real 3-and-D wing, and he has that potential because obviously he has some interest and want to on defense, and he's really long. But like, I don't want to see Ryan Rupert be a spot-up shooter in Summer League. I want to give him the ball and let him run pick and rolls and make mistakes and like make reads and like do something that's way outside of his role, way outside of his normal comfort zone, way beyond what he'd be asked to do in a normal Blazer game. Like put more on his plate than he can handle and see what he does. And I feel the same way with Chris Murray. I want Chris Murray to be like a go-to offensive player on the Blazers Summer League. That's what's holding Murray back right now. He can't shoot. But if he can't shoot, you can improve in shooting and maybe he'll get a little bit better, but if he can't shoot, he has to do other stuff on offense. And that's what I'd love to see. It's like, what is he like with the ball in his hands, making plays? What is he like trying to create his own offense inside the arc as not just a standstill shooter? Because, his first season in the pros, he's pretty serious negative because they didn't guard him as a standstill shooter and he missed shots. Then he seemed to lose a little confidence, was taking less of those shots. It's like, instead of worrying about what Chris Murray can't do, let's see what other stuff he might be able to do in a setting where might is like a reasonable measuring stick. It's like, can he do this? Oh no. Well, okay, it doesn't matter. Like truly, this game can't matter. So for both of those guys, for Rupert and for Murray, it's like, see what let them expand their games. Like let them do more stuff. I feel similarly about Justin Minaya, but it's like, he's a two-way guy. And the Blazers have a lot of like straight up like Rupert and Murray are if the regular season was going to start today and the Blazers roster is full, I don't think Ryan Rupert or Chris Murray would have a night one rotation spot. I think they're behind players in the roster. I think the top two forwards are very obviously Denny Avdia and Jeremy Grant. Choose your own adventure on who plays what position. People care about that more than me. The backup two forwards, Matisse Thybulle is going to play, and I think it's a pretty safe bet that Jabari Walker is ahead of both Rupert and Murray as like today, day one. If the NBA regular season was to start in the middle of July, I don't think Rupert has a spot. Has a spot. I don't think Chris Murray has a spot. The Blazers, they could still make plenty of roster moves and all of those things, and hopefully they will, and they don't run back the exact same group. But if they do run back this group that they have now, like Murray and Rupert are out of the rotation. Like they're on the fringes of the rotation. And Justin Minaya is behind those two dudes because he's like a similar player to some extent and a two-way guy. So I don't have as much like, I want to see Justin Minaya do this, but any positives from him will obviously cover in highlights. Like if he continues to improve as an offensive player, it is worth noting and knowing and highlighting and all of those things. But that's like that. I think, like I said, I think there's two ways to watch Summer League. You either watch for how does this guy fit in a realistic, here's the role he's going to have in the NBA, or how does this guy fit in a totally unrealistic role where he's asked to do way more, and kind of depending on the type of player they are and the type of roster. I think with this roster, Rupert and Murray are the expansive roles, and Klingon is the specific role type of guy. And those are like the sort of the two minds in which I will go about evaluating Summer League. Blazers play 4 games of Summer League, starting Saturday, July 13th against the Spurs. Then Monday, they play Philly. Tuesday, the second night of a back-to-back against Washington, and then they wrap up their schedule July 19th against the Hornets. They're doing the championship thing, so you got to win your games and win your games by, and the point margin matters and all those things. You lose twice, you're done. You go 3-1, you have a chance. You go 4-0, you're probably in the championship. That's how it works. We'll talk more about Summer League into next week as we or probably Friday show next week preview the week ahead in Vegas. It used to be a little mom and poppy out there in Vegas. Not every team went. The games weren't always on TV. It was just a little bit different. Now it's a big television event. All of these games are easy to watch on TV and will be broadcast on television with people in polos who are not talking about the game, but I'll talk about the games here. It's like Summer League's change. It's like a big deal, and the whole NBA is there. If you're probably too late to make your choice to go because we're a week away, but in the future, like the first weekend is the time to go to Summer League. The whole NBA that is there. It's really fun. You'll see it'll be like you'll see like Daryl Morey and Danny Ainge and LeBron James and for some reason Chris Bosh and it's like the whole league is there, the whole NBA family is there. You'll be playing, craps at the casino, and all of a sudden the whole like Blazers analytics staff will also be at the table next to you. It's like it's a fun time. If you get a chance to go, always go early in that first weekend. It's a whole bunch of fun. Speaking of fun trips, Matisse Thybulle isn't taking one. What the heck is going on with the Aussies? Let's talk about it to close the show. All right, still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. The news came out today. I'm recording this on Friday, July 5th. This is Friday, July 5th show. This one's late because the 4th of July is a birthday in my house. So it's always a big celebration. And your boy just didn't have it in him to make a late night episode, and I was doing other stuff this morning. So this one's super late in the day. I apologize, but you got 5. I promised you 5. You're getting 5. It's here. And on Friday, it was announced that the Australian men's national basketball team, the Olympic team for Australia, the Boomers, announced their squad, and Matisse Thybulle isn't on it. Huh. That's a surprise. I called him on this very show, previewing the Olympics and who might be there. I said him and Duop Reith were locks to make it for Australia, so don't even worry about it. A team that had already qualified. They're both, guaranteed to be on the team, so don't even worry about it. I didn't worry about it, and then this news comes out today, and maybe we should have worried about it. What a weird thing. Here's the real deal. I don't know enough about the sort of politics and layers of the Australian men's national team and the Australian basketball team to tell you how this came about. But I did read a story on news.com.au in which many Aussies were puzzled, baffled, and angry that Matisse is not on the team. And some of it was pointed at Matthew Dellavedova and others as a very notable omission. I mean, like I say, Scoot's omission from Summer League doesn't matter because it doesn't. This matters, right? Matisse Thybulle might not be, missing this cycle in 2024 means that he just might not play in 2028. He might the relationship might be done, and he might get, he was going to get a chance to play 2 more cycles probably just because of his age with the Australian national team and now the Australian team, and now he's not now he might not. He might not be in the 2028 Olympics either. That stinks. So I can't speak to the whole rationale, but it seems to be that it is more to it than just a basketball decision, or if it is just a basketball decision, it's a bad one, I think is my read on it from reading the news-based reporters based and columnists based in Australia who have a much closer view of it than I do. Duop Reith's going to be there. They're kind of light at center with Jock Landale and Duop as their only centers, so you'll get to see Duop at the end of July when things kick off. The games start. Well, the opening ceremony is July 26th, and then the next 20 days of following that are the Olympics, and so you'll get to see Duop, but you won't get to see Tease, which that's a bummer. It's a curious one and a bummer, and obviously if there's some more hard reporting on what went down, I'll share it on the show, but that's what you need to know for now. So right now, only one Blazer in the Olympics. Only one Blazer in the Olympics is Duop Reith. DeAndre Ayton's got a chance. His team, the Bahamas, they play Lebanon in the semifinals of their Valencia-based, their Spain-based qualifying tournament. And they play Lebanon in the semis, and then if they win, they're very likely to play host Spain Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Portland time, in Valencia for a winner-take-all shot at the Olympics. That should be a fun one. I hope it's Spain versus the Bahamas, and we get a really good international game to see who advances and see if DA can join Duop as the 2 Blazers centers in the Olympics. That's going to do it for today's show. I appreciate you listening. Come back for more next week. That's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. Sorry this one was a little bit late, but hopefully it gives you a little something to listen to into your weekend. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.